Podcasting is more than just talking. It's listening. BSing with Bob Schmidt.
You know, it's not very often that you get a chance to actually talk to somebody that actually talks trash. I've been doing talk radio for many years, now trying my hand at podcasting, but my next guest is a guy that's been talking trash for over 30 years, Brian Tippetts from Seven Rivers Recycling. I had Brian on my radio program quite a bit ago, and we were talking about the fact that Seven Rivers Recycling is the only state of Wisconsin recycler of mattresses. And to me, that was kind of bizarre that you were the only one. But the thing is that you guys are in a small town on the west side of the state. How does a company that's, in Onalaska, Wisconsin, become the state's only recycler of mattresses?
Sure, Bob. I love that question. And when it comes to talking trash, I don't talk smack, but I do talk trash. Why Western Wisconsin? Why La Crosse, which is one of the smaller areas in the state when you can consider Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, etc.? There are a number of reasons. One is certainly we have the aptitude at our business to do those things, but a more important reason is the La Crosse disposal system, the La Crosse County landfill, realized how expensive it really was to landfill mattresses. They have a lot of volume, very little weight. They subsidize everyone they bury, and they said, that doesn't make sense. We're not going to do that. So they put a surcharge on mattresses that they thought started to approximate the real cost of burying them. Once they did that, that creates the economic model to recycle those. And economics can drive this. We don't need regulation, but we do need landfills to not subsidize the burial of that recyclable resource. And La Crosse County was the first in the state to really pick that up. And that's really laid the groundwork for us to step into this.
Brian, I know that what you guys are doing is not unique to the market, because I know that Minnesota's got a couple. Some other states have some mattress recycling as well. Is it different recycling in the state of Wisconsin than it is recycling in Minnesota or Illinois or another state?
Yeah, a lot of the national laws aren't national laws at all. They're state-level laws.
Okay.
And in Minnesota, they've had sizable grants. I know of a couple that are over $200,000 to initiate mattress recycling. At the same time, they've done the same thing La Crosse County has done and created large surcharges on the burial of mattresses. So it really lays the economic groundwork to make it happen. Give a large grant and surcharge mattresses going into landfills. Wisconsin doesn't have any grant money for this, but one landfill did start to surcharge.
What is the cost? I mean, if I were to bring a mattress to the landfill today, what would it cost me to drop my mattress off?
At La Crosse County Landfill, they're charging $15, and you can use the math case that the real cost is over $20, but they are charging $15, and you can bring that mattress to us for the same $15, so there's no benefit to the individual, but the county also has boxes for you to put the mattresses in, and they charge you $15 to recycle it, or $15 to throw it out, and the average homeowner, in fact, almost every homeowner will recycle it versus throwing it out, even though there's not an economic incentive. We also have a preferred rate for commercial recyclers, those that have hundreds of them, that's much less than 15. And so those that handle a lot of mattresses, there is an economic incentive to use us versus burying it.
Well, let me ask the difference then between, obviously if I'm recycling my own personal mattress, it's $15, but I'm a hotel getting new beds, or a hospital purchasing new beds. Is there obviously a break for those?
Sure. What we do, if you are like a hospital or a motel or a prison, we'll take all those for $12.50. You deliver them, you help unload them. So there's a break there, and we help you work on transportation as well. Mm-hmm. Oxford Prison had a bundle of mattresses, and they were all twins and very small and very quick to operate. We were actually able to go below $12.50 when we analyzed the cost, but they were all smaller mattresses and very easy to work with.
Mm-hmm. No, okay, you bring up a point, because there's different mattresses. There's children's mattresses that you'd have in a crib, and then a twin, and then a double, then a queen, then a king, then a super king. I mean, is it 15, 15, 15, 15?
It's 15 for everything unless you have a huge quantity of the exact same thing.
Okay.
And then we can do a cost analysis on what's it take to take yours apart. And when there's large quantities, usually they're hotels or like an institution like a prison.
So, all right, you got the mattress, Brian. Seven Rivers Recycle, you brought it in there, you got it there. Now all of a sudden you've got 84 mattresses lined up. What happens next?
Nice. The guys take those and lay those on a table, and then they fillet them like you might fillet a fish. They take a knife and they cut around the sides, and you peel that back, somewhat like when you pull back the covers on a bed. And you have the ticking, then you have the foam, then typically you have something we call mattress felt that protects the foam from the springs underneath. And below that and around that, then you also have the wood. And so the foam's recyclable, the steel's recyclable, the wood's recyclable. The mattress felt, we struggle with that. And we've got a lot of creative uses for mattress felt, and we're looking for entrepreneurs to come alongside of us to do more things with the mattress felt. That is a nice resource. It looks like a blanket. It looks like a mover's blanket. It's used as the insulation underneath carpet in cars. It's been used as landscaping fabric at the YMCA's food forest, as an example. There's just a lot of things. Carpenters can use it as a contractor's tarp. Painters can use it. If you're walking across your yard when it's wet, when you're moving in or out of the house, and you don't want to track in that stuff in your house, you can use it like a piece of carpet. And you can reuse it, or you can throw it out when you're done.
So when you throw it out, I mean, is that what you guys do with it then? Because you haven't found a true place to recycle it, then do you take that, bring it to the landfill, and get rid of it? Or
well, we haven't had to do that yet. We're accumulating it, and we're giving it away. We're wrapping it into plastic bundles and giving it away, trying to create a market. But it comes to a point when there's just so much you can do. Now, if those felts are damaged, if the springs over the decades have wore through the felt and it's holey, we throw that out. Okay. But I would say most of them are in really good shape.
So, Brian, obviously you've got a ton of these. There's other states that are doing this. What have they done with their mattress felts and their ticking and their pieces that you guys have?
For the mattress felt, they throw it away.
They do, okay.
And the reason is there's the International Sleep Products Association has a sister organization called Mattress Recycling Council, who hired Georgia Tech to find out what you could do with the mattress felt. And so they contacted us, and they said, we're the only place that they found by doing internet searches that has a use for the mattress felt. And they said, what do you do with it? And what they found is using it as landscaping fabric, because when we worked at the YMCA on their project, that got in the newspaper. So they were able to find that. And that was the report back, is that's the only use that they had found at that point in time. And so the rest of the places that they contacted, and you can be listed at the Mattress Recycling Council's website for free as a mattress recycler. And so they contacted all of those, and they told us we're the only one that they had found a use for the material.
So what does that make you feel like being, from, like we talked about earlier, being from a small town on the western side of the state of Wisconsin, to be the only one in the country that has an actual true recycling program for your mattresses?
Well, part of is our mindset's different. Is I look at, and I don't know of all the mattress recyclers in the country, and there's only about 40, by the way. But most of those come from a social entrepreneur working with people with troubled backgrounds, or from a business perspective, not from a waste and recycling perspective. We're the only one I know that's really been our background, is waste and recycling. So we come into it, how can we do this from a environmental, sustainable resource perspective? That's just our background, versus how can we find labor for disadvantaged people? And then we do that as well. But our angle's a little different, so our mindset's different, and how we approach things is a little different. And I think that makes it easier for us to find those alternative uses.
Interesting. I know that when we spoke on my radio program, you talked about the fact that you're looking for people to come up with an idea, and you called it social entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And after we spoke, I know that I had a hard time sleeping that night, and the next night, and the night after, because my mind was thinking, what
you
can
were
I
sleeping
do with
on
this?
it, literally.
I really was sleeping on it, because I thought that
Did you get that, Bob? You're sleeping on it?
Yeah, I got it. It's a whole the mattress joke.
Yeah,
but I mean, I really did think of a lot of different ways that it could be used. But then you wonder, is it machine washable? Can I throw it in the wash machine and will it hold together?
Good question. I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. Some of them might be, but I wouldn't want to do that. These things, when I've used them as a mover's blanket, they work really well. But if you get caught on a sharp edge of furniture and you just jerk it, you'll rip a hole in it. Right. It doesn't have the integrity of a quilted mover's blanket. When you lay it on the ground and you walk on it, it seems like it holds up for a long time. But if someone's standing on it and you give it a really hard pull, you can tear it.
Were you trying to pull the rug out from underneath
somebody?
Yeah, exactly.
You do that, you'll rip it. And so I think in a washing machine, I don't know how it would hold up.
Right.
But think of this material is that it is wrapped in, it's in the interior of the mattress. Mm-hmm. There's a ticking on top. There's, 8 inches of foam on top. And then you have this mattress felt, and then the springs. It's been sealed up until you take it out. And we find most of the dirt that we get on it comes from the dust and the storage we have. That's where we wrap it up in plastic. Because after they sit around a month, you pull them out and say, these things are dusty. How'd that happen? Oh, it's from the factory dust. It's not from the mattress itself.
I was wondering about that, too, because if you're cutting this out of a mattress, and we all know that weird things happen in mattresses, from spills to other stains. Do you have to worry about that seeping through to some of this stuff?
On the quilting, on the outside ticking, yes. I think that's an issue. In the foam,
what do you do with that stuff?
If it's attached to foam, and most of it is, we can recycle that with the foam. And then the factory separates it, that we send it to separates that out. And I think when they get the actual ticking, they separate that from the foam, and that probably gets disposed of. But those that are just straight ticking, we don't have a use for those either, but that's a very small percentage. And that's the stuff that can scare people. That's the stuff that can have the stains and whatnot on it, or other things you're concerned with. That, if it's attached to foam, gets recycled. If it's not attached to foam, it gets thrown out. That we're not selling.
Okay. Now, is that different from is it different with a one-sided mattress? Because it seems like a lot of the newer mattresses are a one-sided compared to a two-sided, like the old school mattresses. Is it the same? Are they built the same way?
I think, if I recall correctly, the 4 largest manufacturers of mattresses produce something like a huge percentage, 70%. I'm kind of making up these numbers, but to give you the idea,
487,000%. It's weird.
Yeah. Just a few companies make most of the mattresses.
Okay.
But there are, and I don't know the number either, but there's a huge number of companies that make the rest of the mattresses. So there's a huge number. It's a small percentage, but a huge variety of mattresses. Having said that, they basically all use ticking, whether it's top or bottom, foam, and springs. And a lot more don't have springs anymore, but springs, and they have a frame. And so there's not, you do have the I can't think of the word right now. What are the mattress that press in?
Memory foam?
Memory foam. You got the memory foam, which is different, and it's lower value, but we have a market for that as well. But mattresses are pretty much mattresses. They do their job, and we have uses for the material.
Interesting. So the felt that you're talking about, I know that that's a piece that you have a lot of. So, if people are listening right now and have an idea of what they can do with it, they can contact you.
Yes, and right now it's free.
And get some of this stuff. But what is that made of? Because I know that when I looked at it, it looks to me like it was at one time a carpet padding or something like that.
It looks a lot like a carpet padding. It is the insulation material underneath the carpet in your car for soundproofing. It's a synthetic product. It's either polyurethane, more likely a polypropylene type material. It's a mottled gray colored thing. In it, when you look at it, it looks a lot like a blanket because it kind of is.
Has it changed over the years?
There's some are more rigid or stiff. And for instance, if you use it on a piece of linoleum or a wood floor, when you go to move your foot, most of it moves kind of in one piece because it's rigid enough, even though it folds it like a blanket.
Right.
Some of it is really soft and is very much like a blanket. And so when you go to move it on your foot to slide it on the floor, it'll wad up like a tarp normally does. And I found if you have something you can slide on like a floor, if you're doing remodeling in your home, it's so easy to move it around the room in one piece. It's not as rigid as a piece of cardboard, but that makes it easy to move around as you're moving on your project.
Right. Now, when we talked earlier about it not being able to be in a washing machine, have you thought about doing any, shredding of it and using it as blown insulation in, different rooms and stuff like that?
Well, one of the uses of this, which we think might be the best use, and it might be an industry game changer. Maybe I shouldn't say it on the radio or podcast, but I will. And that is layering that material to make an archery target backstop. So when you shoot the target arrow into the material, you're not hitting it on its face, but on the edge. So you lay up all these, like you'd lay up like Princess and the Pea with all these layers of blankets. You lay up all these mattress felt like this, put it in a frame, and then you have tension put on it so it tightens it down. And what we found out is that the arrow doesn't go in very far, and you can pull it out with 2 fingers very easily, and it doesn't damage the material. And so you can shoot, and in one little target, 200 times you can shoot in a spot. It's like, wow, we've not damaged the material, and the arrow comes out earlier. It would compete with a product where you have to wrap your whole hand, all your fingers around the shaft of the arrow, and pull using muscle. Big difference. And the expert we're working with says instead of using a foot thick backstop, let's cut it to 6 inches. And we haven't done that yet because we think 6 inches might be enough. And you can adjust the tension depending on the frame you're in to hold this.
Right.
That would be a phenomenal use for this. But our company, we're into getting old mattresses, disassembling those, and selling those as commodities. We're looking for an entrepreneur to come alongside of us to buy those as a commodity and start selling those so we can keep them out of a landfill.
Right. Now, when it comes to actually using the pieces that you guys have, so you take the mattresses in, you charge $15 to do that, you cut them off, you take the pieces off, you recycle those. So basically your company sells those pieces or that commodity to another company that uses that to make it into like these chairs that we're sitting on or the back of the computer or something like that.
Well, for instance, the wood gets sold to be made into mulch. The steel going to a foundry, and they make whatever steel they make out of that.
Right.
And the foam gets ground up and used as carpet backing. We don't do that next step.
Right.
We supply those materials for that next step. And the mattress felt, who knows what that will end up being used. We're using it, kind of reusing it as a blanket of sorts, but there's a lot of things that could become art projects. Who knows?
Right. Well, that's pretty cool. One of the other projects or products, too, that we talked about when you were on with the radio show is that you had this coconut.
Yeah, we've got coconut core.
Coconut core.
It's,
now, what part of the mattress is that?
Well, I don't know the exact time frame, but I'm guessing in the 60s.
Okay.
Some companies, instead of using the felt, used this coconut material. And those of us that have doormats that are kind of bristly, a lot of times that's a coconut material. And that's what this is. Or years ago, when they do erosion control on the highway projects, they lay down these mats of coconut, or they'd roll them up and they'd be like a log for erosion control. Today, they use like a nylon netting, and they put straw in there. Coconut, I understand, is a superior product, but it's very expensive. So they've gone to a cheaper material, which is the nylon webbing with straw. We've got hundreds of these coconut logs or coconut mats that we're not getting many new mattresses with that in it, so it's probably a limited supply. And also flower baskets. When you buy a flower basket and you see that fibrous material, not the moss, not the sphagnum moss, but this other material, it's probably coconut. And that's what we have, and we're looking to move that as well.
And that's just one of these products, too, that if you're looking for a social entrepreneur, somebody to come up with an idea for that. So if somebody's listening to this podcast right now and they say, you know what, I've got a million ideas. I'm just like Bob. I stayed up all night thinking about this, and I slept on it. Here's a great idea. Contact Seven Rivers Recycling.
Yes.
How do people reach you guys?
You can actually, there's a couple of ways. You can go to the website, which might be easy to put in your memory. You don't have to write it down. www.7riversrecycling.com. 7riversrecycling.com. Or you can call me, 608-781-0257. They get you right to my phone. Okay. But you can Google 7 Rivers Recycling, and you'll find us in a number of spots.
Excellent. What'd you say that number was again? 608?
608-781-0257.
Okay. I mean, now with that, does that end up breaking down? Because I took the piece that you gave me before, and I put grass seed down over some fresh topsoil, and I put that over the top of it, and I figured, okay, grass has started to grow, but will that eventually erode it? Not erode, but will it eventually break down?
Yes. In fact, I tried it myself. A neighbor of mine had a new septic system put in, so I decided to put this down in his yard. And I planted, there was grass seed planted underneath it, but this was tight enough I wasn't sure the grass would grow through or not, so I also planted some grass seed on top. And I noticed through the summer that the grass that was growing where the coconut was greener and more vigorous than the other grass, and I think it's because it helped keep moisture in the soil. I think that's what it was. And I went back months later, and I could still find some of the coconut in there, but you could tell it was already breaking down. And then I went back close to a year later after it had gone through the winter, and I can't find it. It's gone. So it does break down, I would say, in less than a year, depending on the environmental conditions, but it breaks down.
No, with the felt that you guys have as well, I mean, if you're using that as an erosion control or as a place to basically put around trees to keep the weeds from popping up, that will also allow moisture to go through there, but not things to pop back up.
Yeah, that will block the plants from popping up, but will not. It will let the moisture go through. It's a landscaping fabric. I've used it with and without material on top of it, with mulch on top, with rocks on top. I've also laid it out bare. If you lay it out bare, and I did it in an area where we walk that was dirt, and over a period of 9 months, after scuffing it with feet, walking on it back and forth on a path, plants did start to grow through, but it's where your heels caught and ripped it up over time. Where we've laid it with rocks on top of it, no, it hasn't come through. And I would expect commercially purchased landscaping fabric would be the same way. If you're walking on top of it directly as part of a path that you use multiple times a day, eventually you're going to break through it.
Brian, this is very interesting stuff. At least I find it very interesting. That's why I wanted to talk with you about this stuff. But how did you guys even think about, obviously, the breakdown? But how did you think that you could take that and end up making money for your company? I mean, obviously there's a grant that came in, but how did you know what the price was going to be? And
well, first of all, we never have received a grant.
You did? Okay.
So those in Minnesota receive grants.
Okay.
We've never received a grant. We'd love to receive a grant, but Wisconsin and others don't offer that. First of all, it comes with the mindset. You look at the material, and it's like, this clearly is a resource that has value. You just look at it, and you just innately know that. And when you find out nobody's doing stuff with it, it's like, that's wrong. And when you look at the option as landfilling it, that's really wrong. It just strikes you as wrong. We don't want to do this. And so you start thinking, what can we do with this? And you start looking what others have done. And for instance, the mattress felt, you start Googling that, and you find you can get something very much like it that you can purchase on the internet that's new, that's like, wow, people pay a lot of money for that. But this is used, or old anyway. And so
that's what recycling is.
Yeah. And it's just wrong to throw away something that has a use to it. Because people might say, ooh, that came from a mattress that someone slept on. Well, the water you're drinking today wasn't always fresh water. It probably got filtered through some dinosaur's kidneys or something at some time. Right. So it's still part of the cyclical nature of life.
Well, I remember fourth grade, we had a water person come in and talk to our fourth grade class. So this was 40 years ago. And he said that the water that you showered with today, how did he say it? He said a zebra drank it years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's 40 years ago in fourth grade that I remember that, you know. So you're right. I mean, this stuff it is the ultimate recycling. How has the garbage industry changed? You said you've been doing this since the 80s. How has the garbage industry changed in 30 plus years?
Wow, it has changed so much. Before, waste was looked at as a waste. Just get it out of town, get rid of it, dump it somewhere, and turn your back on it. I think there's a mindset shift that waste really is a low value or overlooked resource. And if you waste it, that's exactly what you've done. You've wasted it. And should you be wasting it? And we also realize, whether it's a petroleum product or even wood, that there's energy and cost tied up with that. When you look at sustainability, it's people, planet, profit, and I add a fourth P, which is party or pleasure. You need to have fun in what you're doing as well. But anyhow, when you look at those low-value resources, i.e. waste, what can we do that benefits society? What can we do that benefits people? And how can we make money on it? And a lot of times we look at very short-term costs. For instance, if you're using petroleum today, there's an abundance of petroleum, we may think, because we get new ways of getting it, but we're not making more of that. And so we don't look at the cost in this year. What would the cost perhaps be in 10 years? And why should we put in, there's disamenities, there's aesthetic cost. Why should we tear down a bluff to get frac sand that you haul out of state so you can mine more, get more of those resources? And I'm not saying we shouldn't do some of that, but wouldn't it be better to use the resources we have at hand first? The mindset of not wasting things.
Right. Well, you mentioned a low-value resource. I'd never heard that term before. And with garbage, I would think that it's not always a low value. You look at aluminum cans, you look at the steels, that you look at a lot of that stuff that we used to throw away all the time that's now being recycled and being reused. So, I mean, is that still considered low value, the recycled pieces?
If someone puts a diamond ring in their trash and someone else finds it, they're going to say that's not a low-value resource.
Right.
But it was handled as one. And so when people put their aluminum cans in the trash, they're handling it as a low-value resource, and lots of aluminum cans get thrown in the trash. Mm-hmm. Now, in the lacrosse market, there's another side of this story. We do have curbside programs that take aluminum cans, and there's more value in that, 30 cents a pound or whatever it is today, 50 cents a pound you can get for your aluminum cans. But in our marketplace, they end up going to Xcel Energy, which is a refuse-derived fuel plant, which means they process all the trash, the low-value resource, and they have, even though it's aluminum, they have an eddy current system that puts an electrical charge through the trash that can pull out those aluminum cans, and they still get recycled when you throw them in the trash. Mm-hmm. The point is, they were handled as a low-value resource. We still extracted those. They should be handled as a higher-value resource. And people throw away things that do have a higher value, but they're treating them as lower value than they are.
Oh, okay, so that makes sense. I mean, so because Seven Rivers Recycling is part of a bigger company that is garbage collection, right?
Seven Rivers is owned by two other companies. One of them is Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling,
okay, and
they do the trash hauling and the recycling hauling. The other one is D&M Recycling, who specializes in finding unique markets for oftentimes industrial-type recyclables. But they also buy aluminum from the public.
Mm-hmm. So you're a conglomeration of a couple of different businesses that work together. See, that's another piece to the puzzle that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's pretty cool that you guys are all working together.
And those two, what you might call parent companies, have been doing this for over 30 years each. And if you look up the years of experience of all the owners, it's hundreds of years. It's amazing of the expertise that's brought to bear on this.
Well, that's because you're old.
Yeah, that's right. I've not been recycled yet, but who knows?
So have you had any people, Brian, that have called and said, hey, I've got an idea besides the archery and besides, because I had that idea of, cutting it and using it, I mean, have you had many people call you with brilliant $1 million money-making ideas?
I don't recall that anyone's called, but I do recall many times in conversations where people have come up with ideas. With the mattress felt, Christensen Nursery said, "Oh my goodness, if you could wrap those in a bowl to fit in a like an iron basket for flowers, we could buy all that you could make." He says, "We're using coconut core now, which we also have, but they said sometimes that doesn't blend into the siding of the house like some homeowners like. Mm-hmm. Could we have those?" And so we'd like an entrepreneur to make those. And using the mattress felt as landscaping fabric, I was working with, I think, Cooley Region Ecoscapes. Judd Steinbeck, I believe, threw out the idea of that, and it was instrumental in making that happen at the YMCA.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's been down for over a year. Has it?
Yes.
Has it broken down yet?
No, it has not. I was just down there in the last 10 days checking on it.
Okay, I mean, and I'm sure that's something that people are going to ask when they have the chance to try it out. Is it something that's been able to be used or not?
Yeah, you can go down there, and it's right where they got some of the benches where people sit, and they got stone laid down. So I went down there and pulled back all the stones and found the felt and said, "How's it doing?" It's doing great.
Right. Well, I mean, that's. I mean, is it pretty cool for you to get up in the morning to think that, first of all, the bed that I'm sleeping on eventually will become this, and this. But then to say that you're part of the solution rather than part of the problem of these these mattresses being buried.
It is cool, but on the other hand, I think all of us, in some measure, step up to do something like that. We start to get lost in what we do, but we all need to live a life that makes us a better place for the next generation and minimizes our impact on them.
So I popped on your guys' website, the number 7riversrecycling.com, and I'm looking at some of the different things that you do, the e-waste, the white goods, the light bulbs, the documents and whatnot. Now, when you get documents, do you guys shred those, or do you take the shreddings that people bring?
We do both, but primarily we're used to shred those.
Okay.
Taking confidential documents and shred those, and then recycle the shreddings.
Okay. So, I mean, do you guys charge by the pound for that? Or, I mean, how does that work? Or
It's by the job. The ones we go to now, we usually go to their place of business.
Okay.
And pick those up and do the delivery and then the shredding.
No, I know from friends that have had recycle. I don't know. They work for companies where they've had bins and ask people to bring things in to recycle and whatnot, and that there's some money in some of the e-waste stuff that's out there, but there's a lot of people that do what you guys do on the side on their in their garage.
Yeah.
And they pull all this stuff up, and then they end up with all this. They end up with the shells and the old monitor pieces that aren't usable and things. What happens to those types of things?
There's a lot of those have precious metals in those, and those go to their own markets. And we're a collector; we're not a recycler of that material. So we take that, and then we take it to a processor where they do the disassembly. You could do it in your garage. But then you took something that has value because of those materials in it, but then you're left with the rest of the scrap you have to get rid of. And nobody wants that because the value is gone. And the scrappers that I'm aware of that do that, they take out the precious metals and then they throw away the rest in the trash or find some place to get rid of it. And that's a problem because that still has some value, but there's a net cost to dealing with what's left after you take out the precious parts.
Right. Now, okay, I'm sure that a lot of people are thinking right now, okay, it's cost me $15 to recycle a mattress. I can just cut it apart and throw it away myself piece by piece over the weeks.
Go for it. You'll see the work that is. You'll say, yeah, it's worth $15.
It's worth $15. I'm telling you that right now. But is there a profit for that? I mean, do you guys make money on that?
Well, put it this way. So we've been in business since 2014 disassembling mattresses. The owners have not made penny one.
Really?
All the money they've taken, they've turned back into making the company better. We've got balers to buy. We have a forklift to buy.
Right.
We have more equipment to buy. So we're reinvesting all the money at this point. So we're doing this because we want to make money. But at this point, we're reinvesting everything.
See, I mean, and I'm sure that people are listening and saying, well, they're only doing that so they can make a buck. But
well, yeah, that's one of the key things is we want to make a buck, but at this point we're reinvesting all the money.
Is that why people get into recycling? Because a friend of both mine and yours, Nick Nichols, he said that he got into recycling because he's cheap, and he recycles things because and he got into the stuff that he does because he basically wants to save a buck, and he found, well, if I get paint from Brian and Bob gets rid of some paint and there's this, that, and the other thing that somebody's going to just put out, and I can take this and I can paint my house and I can put new windows in my home because this person's getting rid of them. So there's a cost of doing goods or doing business with that too.
I know Nick Nichols, and I think it's more complicated than that for most of us, and I think it isn't for Nick. I think that might have been an initial motivator, but I also know he really cares a lot about the planet as well. Right. And so he's a triple bottom line guy. He does it because he's cheap. He wants to have profit or save money, but he also does it because he likes to take care of this planet Earth we're on. And it's good to have all those people. I mean, if you're doing something and it makes no economic sense, you can't keep doing it. Because you got to make a buck. But a lot of times when you start recycling, it's like, I think I could go somewhere else and make more money than I'm doing this. But as you get good at it, hopefully more money will come.
Right. Oh, plus there's a love for it, too. I can just tell. I know that from the couple of times that we spoke that, you can tell that you've got a passion for the mattress.
There's a funny mindset, too. There's a sense of humor talking trash with some of the things you see or can talk about that I don't want to say here, but it's just kind of fun. And when you find somebody else that says, oh, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun.
That's excellent. Now, I want to turn your attention to something different. I know that we've been talking about mattresses and recycling and the possibility for social entrepreneurs to come up with an idea to help you guys basically get rid of the coconut. What do you call it? The coconut hull or the
Coconut core, COIR. Yeah.
Okay, so the coconut core and the felt. But the way that you and I originally found each other was through LinkedIn, and I know that a lot of people are using LinkedIn in order to connect with business professionals and that. And I know that you've got 3 different groups that you moderate. First of all, how did you get into doing LinkedIn as a small business person out of La Crosse, Wisconsin?
Interesting. On the LinkedIn connection, I used to work for a company called Applied Ecological Services. They're a national, even international ecology company. When they were using me to connect with landfills to restore those lands to natural ecosystems, and when they found out I was doing consultative marketing, that I wasn't on LinkedIn, I kind of got chastised and said, you need to do LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. I'm not a social media guy, so to speak. So I got into LinkedIn and ended up getting pretty good at it. And after I left there and started to work for Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling and Seven Rivers Recycling, I just used that to keep going. And so those 3 groups have actually done quite well. Mm-hmm. They're quite active and growing.
Well, you've got a mattress recycling one.
Yes.
So that's mattress. How do they find that one? It's mattress recycling
on LinkedIn. It's Mattress Recycling Connection.
Now, do you have to have a connection to mattress recycling to do that, or
no?
Can me that had these ideas that kept me awake? Thank you very much. Join that and kind of see what you guys are doing there.
Now, on that site, I'll tell you this: is I receive connection requests multiple times a week, mm-hmm. and when I look at the person that requested, if they're from some place that seems to have no connection at all with recycling and didn't communicate directly to me why they want to join, I don't let them join.
Right.
But if you have any connection, or if you send me an individual email that shows a desire in this area, absolutely. I don't want it to become spam. I don't want it to be a spam site.
Right.
And so I sort those out that I think are going to do that. I don't care if you have any background in this stuff at all, but if you have an interest and state that makes any sense at all, absolutely. We are on 6 continents in that site. Yeah.
See,
South America, North America, Asia, Africa. I'm amazed. And I'm amazed how big this is in Ireland, England, Australia, New Zealand, and the interest that's in South America and Africa. Now, most of it's North America, mm-hmm. but they're ahead of us in Australia and New Zealand on mattress recycling.
All right, let me ask this question then. What have they done with the felt?
They've basically, I don't know what they're doing with the felt, quite frankly, but they're ahead of us on capturing the mattresses that they're recycling. They've institutionalized it, used government to say, this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. But no, they're not doing things with the felt that I'm aware of, and I've asked.
Well, see, I mean, that might be the next question. What can you do with the felt?
Yeah. And I'd say, as far as I know, we probably have more ideas and are doing more than anybody that I connect with, and I'm connected around the globe.
Right. Well, I mean, that's cool to see. Then the other one, Seven Rivers Sustainability, and that deals with the recycling that you guys are doing locally then?
Well, the LinkedIn group Seven Rivers Sustainability deals with the whole broadness of sustainability, whether it's lead, whether it's transportation, whether it's ecology, whether it's recycling, whether it's celebrating sustainability, which is like the Outdoor Recreation Alliance, mm-hmm. getting out there and getting on the trails, getting on the water, fishing, hunting, boating, all bird watching. That is so broad, and it's not just the sustainability part, but it's also the pleasure, the celebration, the enjoyment of being sustainable as well. Organic farming. I mean, it's a really broad group.
That's cool. And then the final one is the La Crosse area professionals in business, and that's actually how we first ended up meeting, is through that LinkedIn.
Yeah, and that group is a good group, but it's really business focused. A lot of times you'll see the very small businesses doing creative things get posted, and the very large businesses that have the PR budget basically to get their stuff out there. So it's cool, mm-hmm. so we post it. And those ones, to me, it's disproportional at the really small end with Unique, and the large end with the PR people to push their agenda. But it's all cool, and it's open to anybody that wants to join. There's over 1,000 members. It's like, I don't know, it's 1,200, 1,100 members mm-hmm. that can join that. There's not many postings, but there's a lot of repostings of the information from that site.
Well, I read a lot of things on there, that's for sure. Brian Tippetts from Seven Rivers Recycling joining me I appreciate the time that we spent together today, and learning more about this is great. And I'm sure that people that are listening right now may have some questions. How do people reach out, Brian, and find out more about recycling your mattresses, or starting their LinkedIn group, or just BSing with you, if they will?
Well, it's easy. Just hook up on the internet to sevenriversrecycling.com or give me a call, 608-781-0257. But just start. Internet's easy. Just get out there. You start looking. You'll find me, and then we can have a conversation.
Have I missed anything, Brian?
One of the materials that we didn't talk about is cotton batting.
Ooh.
And that's not in a lot of mattresses. It's still there. It can be, some people use it for mulch. It can be used as insulation. We think we've got a market for it now, but that's another cool material. It comes like a fluffy cotton blanket. It's easily torn apart. Mm-hmm. But that's a material some people might be interested in.
And is that right now that you're offering that up for free as well?
That's free as well.
Okay. Now, when we're saying free, too, we're talking, of course, that if you were to drive your truck to Onalaska, Wisconsin, to your business, you could get it. But if we contacted you and paid to have it shipped, we could have that happen as well,
it's
right?
Free. You pick it up. If we ship it, we're going to charge you shipping.
Right. So, I mean, it's free to you if you stop by. Otherwise, it's free. The material's free. Just the shipping is going to cost you for the time being until that big $1 million idea hits.
Yeah, and once we develop a market, we're going to start charging this, because that's what propels us to do the business we do.
Absolutely. Brian, again, thanks for joining us and letting us know all about recycling and getting rid of those old mattresses.
Gonna be asked with
The BSing with Bob Schmidt podcast is brought to you by Orange Computer. Find them online at orangecomputerlax.com.
This has been another podcastforhire.com production.